The Thompson family huddled together in their living room. Rain lashed against the windows. Wind howled outside. It was a dark and stormy night.
10-year-old Billy Thompson loved storms. They were exciting, but tonight felt different. Tonight felt scary.
Suddenly, the lights flickered. Billy's dad, Mr. Thompson, looked up from his book.
Probably just the storm, he said, trying to sound calm.
The lights went out. The room was plunged into darkness. "Don't worry," said Mrs. Thompson, her voice trembling. She tried to sound reassuring, but the fear in her eyes was unmistakable. The storm outside was raging and the power had been out for hours.
"I'll get the candles," she said, her voice steadying as she took charge of the situation.
She rummaged in a drawer, her hands moving quickly as she searched for the familiar box. "Found a box of matches," she exclaimed, her voice tinged with relief. One by one she lit 5 candles, their small flames flickering to life and casting a warm glow in the room. Their small flames danced in the darkness, creating a sense of calm amidst the chaos outside. The family gathered around the flickering light, drawing comfort from each other's presence. The shadows on the walls seemed to dance and twist, creating eerie shapes that both fascinated and frightened them. Billy felt a shiver run down his spine, the storm's howling winds and the flickering shadows making him uneasy.
"Tell us a story, Dad," begged Billy's sister Sally, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and anticipation. She was only 7, and the storm was making her nervous. The loud thunderclaps and flashes of lightning were too much for her young heart.
Mr. Thompson smiled, his warm expression a beacon of hope in the dimly lit room.
Once upon a time, he began, his voice a soothing balm to their frayed nerves, his voice a low rumble, weaving a tale that transported them far away from the stormy night.
But little did they know, the darkness held secrets, and the flickering hope was just a prelude to the horrors that awaited. As Mr. Thompson told his story, strange things started to happen. Billy heard whispers, faint and distant at first, but growing louder and more insistent. Soft, raspy whispers just at the edge of the candlelight. He looked around, trying to find the source of the eerie sounds. The shadows seemed to be moving, dancing on the walls as if they had a life of their own. Twisting and turning like living things, the shadows created an unsettling atmosphere. Billy felt a cold breath on his neck. He turned quickly, his heart pounding in his chest, but there was nothing there.
"Dad," he said, his voice shaky and filled with fear. "Did you hear that? It was like someone was whispering right next to me."
Mr. Thompson stopped his story. He listened intently, the room falling into an eerie silence.
"Hear what, son?" he asked, his voice calm but his eyes betraying his concern.
"Whispering," said Billy, his eyes wide with fear, "and someone breathed on my neck. It felt so real." Goosebumps rose on his skin as he recalled the sensation, the cold breath that sent shivers down his spine.
Sally screamed. She pointed a trembling finger at the window. "Faces!" she cried. "I see faces in the window!"
Billy and his parents looked. 2 glowing eyes blinked in the darkness outside, then they were gone. Suddenly, the candles flickered violently. The room grew darker. The whispering grew louder.
Mrs. Thompson gasped. "Something touched me," she whispered. Her eyes were wide with fear.
One by one the candles started to go out. Each time one died, the shadows seemed to grow stronger. The whispers grew louder. Soon, only one candle remained. Its flame danced frantically, casting long, grotesque shadows on the walls.
Billy felt a terror he had never known before. He knew that when the last candle went out, something terrible would happen. He held his breath. The flame flickered, shrank, and then darkness.
The darkness was complete. It was as if the room had swallowed all light, leaving nothing but an abyss. Billy couldn't see his family. He reached out, hoping to feel a familiar touch, but there was only emptiness. He couldn't see his hand in front of his face, but he could hear. The sounds were his only guide. He could hear the whispers, closer now, all around him. They seemed to come from every direction, echoing in the void. He could hear his family's terrified breathing, and then laughter. A child's laughter. It was a sound that didn't belong in this darkness. It was coming from the corner of the room. The laughter was both familiar and unsettling.
Billy felt a chill. He knew that laughter. It sent shivers down his spine, a mix of fear and recognition. It was his little sister's. Sally's laughter, but it sounded different, almost sinister.
A small light flickered in the darkness. It was weak, but it was there, a glimmer of hope in the void. Sally's eyes glowed with an eerie light. They pierced through the darkness, locking onto Billy.
"Let's play," she whispered. Her voice changed, colder. It was no longer the sweet voice he knew. "Let's play hide and seek, in the dark." The words hung in the air, filled with a chilling promise.